We are live.
Okay, good morning. It's April 10th in Senate Judiciary. We're taking up H606, and we have Michael Dunn with us on Zoom, who wants to provide some testimony. So, Michael, if you just want to introduce yourself, and then or is all yours for 30 minutes or however long you need.
Hello, thanks for having me. My name is Michael Dunn. I'm the owner of T-Regs Tavern in Burlington, Vermont. And I was asked today to just come talk about common gun sense law and places that serve beer and liquor. I guess mostly what I just have to say is that guns or weapons in general and alcohol just don't seem to mix really. Not that I have anything against owning a gun or properly using one or anyone that abides by all the laws surrounding guns. I feel pretty strongly that they don't belong in a bar. I think that they make everyone feel less safe if someone is carrying and others aren't. It creates kind of an elephant in the room. It's also pretty sure been well studied that the likelihood of someone using a firearm in an incident is more likely to harm innocent bystanders, especially in a small enclosed space like a bar. I also strongly believe that if somebody is carrying a gun to protect themselves and others, and someone else also has a gun who may have nefarious uses for that gun, then having two in the room or more creates even more likelihood that there will be innocent bystanders hurt as well. A couple of things I was thinking about when I was on my way over here today, because I was asked just yesterday to come bring testimony, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare. But a couple analogies are if we all went down to the shooting range, said shooting range in whatever town, and we had all been drinking, and we decided that we wanted to go into this public shooting range, that shooting range would not let us in because we've been impaired. So if the script is flipped, why would it not be the other way around? The other thing I'd like to point out is alcohol is a drug. It's a legal drug, and it even just one drink already starts to impair your ability to react. It impairs your ability to think critically. It slows you down mentally and physically. It it starts to affect your physical faculties. You may be stumbling or more likely to do something on accident. Another analogy I was thinking about on my way over here was I'm not sure if are we bringing up the Burlington city ban, or is this a new?
It's a way. Say what?
Statewide. Okay. So originally I testified about the Burlington ban, and one of the things against it was that, different municipalities would have different laws, so it'd be confusing for people to follow. And I guess this point is moot now that you are bringing up statewide, but you always got to start somewhere, and that's why I think why Burlington started. It's like what seemed to have been commonplace at one time and not harmful, smoking inside, um, had a lot of pushback when it became illegal to do. But then I think that we can all sit here and say that, nobody wants to bring that back, Even as a smoker, I don't want to be sitting in a bar that's everyone's smoking in. That's not pleasant. So, I mean, I think that there's it's good to revisit these sort of things, and it just, to me, it just makes a lot of common sense that alcohol, because it's a drug, and fire, or any weapons for that matter, don't mix. I think that one, it's really hard to enforce these things. But I think a statewide ban would allow us to, at least, if somebody was to, go against that ban and walk into my establishment with a firearm, the threat level with the police would be raised and they would respond quicker. So immediately I'd be able to transfer the offending person to the proper authorities to take care of the matter, as opposed to on my own trying to enforce just a policy that I have in my own establishment, which is the current state of my business. Yeah, I think that's all I really have to say. I mean, it's just they don't really mix. I don't know how else to put it. It just seems so common sense. Everyone I talk to, both patrons, employees, fellow bar owners, just don't really understand why we don't already have this law on the books. You can even look to similar laws across the country with states with completely different politics than ours that have statewide bans on firearms in places that serve alcohol. Texas is one right off the top of my head. I believe Alabama is another one. I believe Mississippi's one. So, I mean, it's not like we're trailblazing here. This seems to be something that is pretty well received with the general public. I know that the vote in Burlington was overwhelming. I'm sure if you polled the citizens of the state of Vermont, it would also be maybe not quite as overwhelming, but definitely in the majority. And I think that, you guys have a responsibility to your constituents. Obviously, you're not going to please everyone, but if the majority of the people would like to see this in place and think it's a good idea, then you really shouldn't have much for debate. I mean, if you're talking First Amendment rights, I don't think you're really infringing on First Amendment rights. Drinking is not something that you have to do. It's a choice. It's not like you need it to survive. If you don't feel comfortable leaving your house with a firearm, then you just shouldn't go into a bar. And that's okay because you obviously don't need to go into a bar, you know? So I guess that's all I got. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to answer any questions. But yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Committee, any questions for Mr. Dunn? Sarah?
Yeah, I got one. Thanks for being here, Michael. You're right. Drugs, alcohol, cannabis, they're drugs. But we've legalized them, obviously, not so much the alcohol portion of it, but we've legalized these drugs. Now, if this bill was, and the difference between statutory law and constitutional law, the Second Amendment to bear arms, is that this bill should pass, Michael. I understand where you're coming from. So what steps would you recommend for establishments to take to guarantee that those guns are you going to set up a screening mechanism at the front door when they come in? You're going to take the time to do that to make sure your patrons are safe, Michael?
I mean, I'm not going to violate anyone's personal space. I don't think I have the right as a business owner to like frisk somebody.
Well, we have a
I
screening
think the point of the bill would be deterrence.
Okay, thank you.
Know? And then if the person is then escalating the issue because we've asked them politely to put their firearm in their car or walk back to their house and put it away properly before they come into my establishment, and then they're escalating, I definitely don't want that person in my establishment. If they're coming in to pick a fight, I most certainly don't want them to have a gun on them. And so I think I think a lot of times people want to do right, you know, they want to be acting in the proper manner. But if it's confusing and there are different policies, different places, then, you know, it can cause issues that maybe shouldn't be there. If they knew that they weren't allowed to bring a gun into a bar before they even left their house, they'd probably leave it at their house or they'd lock it in their car before they entered in. And we would avoid all these issues. Or if they forgot for some reason and we politely asked them to go put it in their car, they would be like, respond more along the lines of, oh man, I totally forgot I had it on me. I'll be right back. I'm so sorry. Because it's cut and dry. They already know what the law is. Right now we're in this like gray area where certain places like mine don't allow it because it's unsafe. In other places, maybe don't know that they're even allowed to do that. And so it's, or, you know, for some reason want people in there with guns.
So, Michael, let me rephrase my question. Do you believe that if this law passes, is there an obligation of the establishment to make sure that individuals who enter are not carrying firearms?
That's not up to me. That's up to you guys. That's like asking me, you know, if you had said that everyone has to be 21, but I have no obligation to check. That's like you know what I mean? Like, if the law decides that we as a liquor establishment have an obligation to make sure that everyone is not carrying a gun, then I have an obligation as a license holder. That's not a question that's not really up to me. That's up to you guys.
So,
Michael, first of all, thanks for testifying. I think you had the answer earlier. We have prohibited guns in hospitals, but they're not required to have screening mechanisms or people frisking at the door. It just means, as you said earlier, if they find out somebody has a gun, they can call the police and they don't have to interface with that person directly. Have you ever had somebody in the establishment who had a gun that you saw they had a gun?
Oh yeah. And guess what? With like really calm, polite manner, they understand.
Yeah,
They're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't even realize I still had it on me. I totally get why you wouldn't want me in here with that." And they go and
yeah, so
that's happened multiple times, and it's like people like when you're going out to a bar, you're looking to have a good time. That's the point of my business is to have a good time. You know, if you are going out to a bar with a gun and you're not looking to have a good time, I don't want you in here.
yeah,
If you're going out to a bar without a gun and you're not looking to have a good time, I don't want you in here. But I really don't want you in here if you're not looking to have a good time if you're carrying a weapon.
yeah.
And I'm not trained, and my staff is not trained and in de-escalating firearms.
Yeah, so
I think it is a little beyond our scope to have to be able to do that. What this law would allow is us to bring people that are trained in de-escalating issues with firearms in to take care of a potential issue that could harm the general public in a way that would be a moot point if this law had already passed.
So just to finish that piece, we prohibit guns in schools. We never ask schools to determine whether somebody walking in has a gun. They don't frisk people. They don't have metal detectors. Same with hospitals. The State House itself only just started screening bags on a regular basis. So as Mike said earlier, deterrence is really what it's all about, that people understand that they can't bring a gun to a school. They understand they can't bring one at a courthouse or an airport or a hospital. And now we'd be saying in a bar, and that would, become the way that society works. And might somebody sneak a gun in and never be found to have brought the gun in? Yeah, in the same way that on the highway, you have people who drive over the speed limit. But most of the people are regulated by the speed limit. Most of the people are regulated by the prohibition. So anyway, I took your point.
Michael, I have a question here. You'd made an analogy about drinking and then going to the range, and rightfully so, you wouldn't be allowed to enter the range to go shooting if you've been drinking. Do you think it also makes sense to just prohibit being impaired by drugs or alcohol or a combination of both, and or consuming drugs or alcohol while carrying a firearm? Just generally.
I think that's a personal question and has really not so much bearing on this. Like, if I'm like drinking and using my firearm in a field, that's not really harming anybody. We're talking about a closed space with people where everyone is getting impaired. You know what I mean? Like, this is not. I think I take your question and I take your point, and I don't want to muddy the waters for the scope of this discussion. I think that I guess I really just can't answer that question like off the cuff. So
Okay.
that's fair.
No problem. Any other questions? Senator Mattis?
Thanks, Michael. I actually have a question. You talked about responsible gun ownership. And now I'm hearing about my late grandmother always said, Christopher, you don't need to have alcohol to have a good time. And is it a requirement in your establishment to have alcohol?
No.
So if somebody comes in there that's stone sober, maybe a designated driver that hasn't had a drop of alcohol, parked 3 blocks away from your establishment, they shouldn't have the right to protect themselves and bear arms to come in and get a patron who shouldn't be driving home?
All I'm saying is that it's impossible for me to know who a responsible gun owner is. So like that person that you're saying could be stone sober, carrying, walking into my bar and not be a responsible gun owner. They could have forgotten to clean their gun. They might not even know how to use it. Maybe they're just like fired up, like because they just got into a fight with their wife. And even though they're sober, they're angry and they're looking to lash out. How am I supposed to know that they're a responsible gun owner? If I could administer a test on everyone walking in to let me know that they're a responsible gun owner, we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have a problem.
Did you already do that?
Until you find that test of who's the responsible gun owner is, and I could just administer that, then I mean, it doesn't matter whether you've been drinking or not, you know?
Are you allowed to restrict serving alcohol to anyone that walks into your bar?
I'm allowed to refuse service for any reason, whether or not they've been drinking or not. That's a law. I'm allowed as a license holder to refuse service to anybody for any reason at all, at any time.
So there's a mechanism for you in place to not serve alcohol, which is what I'm hearing leads to firearm violence, and you have that ability now to refuse service.
I already do. I'm saying it's confusing for people. If it's a establishment by establishment policy with no teeth to it, because I can't, the police don't have any reason to take it from a level 3 to a level 1, then it's very confusing for even the person that is a responsible gun owner.
Okay, thanks.
And I don't have anything against the responsible gun owner. I'm just saying I have no way of knowing. I have zero way of knowing whether or not you're a responsible gun owner or not. If I have no problem with firearms, but I have no way of knowing who is who knows how to use it. And then you throw in alcohol, and now I'm really up shit's creek. So for me, whatever happens here, my policy is not going to change, you know? And it's just like, you guys are kind of playing with fire here, that something's going to happen somewhere, and you're going to be playing catch up.
Thanks, Michael.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dunn, for coming in. Appreciate it, and have a good one.
Thanks for having me. You guys are great. You're doing hard work, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah. Take care.
Right.
So we have 5 minutes until Lisa comes in. Is she coming on Zoom or in person? I don't think we're gonna have much of a substantive discussion on this bill in the course of 4 minutes. So why don't we just take a break? Come back in 10 and we'll hear from Lisa. Thank you.